Football, especially college football, has a very simple objective, and it's incredibly difficult to pull off. That's what makes it fun and interesting, because when push comes to shove, football boils down to the offense wants to do something, the defense wants to stop them from doing something, and over and over and over again, there is a winner and a loser. But it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. It's a lot more difficult than just like, hey, find the guy with the ball, see the guy with the ball, tackle the guy with the ball. Or from an offense's perspective, run where they ain't. See where those guys are not. That's where you want to be. It's much more difficult than that. But at its core, football is a simple game. And there's one simple aspect that is somewhat overvalued that I don't think we talk enough about in 2024, and that is the stop rate. And if you don't know what the stop rate is, it is essentially how many of your team's defense's possessions end with no points. How many possessions end with a punt, a turnover on down, or the end of the half. Now, that's not a sexy stat, right? Nobody's like, I wonder how often my defense gets off the field. Like, it's not a, like, we value, especially from the defensive perspective, sacks, tackles for loss, turnovers, interceptions, touchdowns forced by defenses. It's very rarely a, like, I wonder how frequently my favorite team's defense does its job and gets off the field without surrendering any points. But it is a critical stat. And when you look at the top 25 and you look at the the stop rates from those teams, I think you see a direct correlation. Tennessee has the best stop rate in America at 89.5%. Ohio State is second at 88.9. Texas is 86.2. Iowa State is 85.3. Cal is 83.3. Army is 81.5. UNLV is 80.6. Alabama, 79.2. If you start going through the stop rates of college football's best stop rates, you know what you find? Would you pick Tennessee to make the college football playoff right now? I would. Ohio State? Yep. Texas? Yep. UNLV feels like one of the leading contenders from the group of five. Alabama? Yep. Notre Dame? Probably. They're number 11 in stop rate. When you boil down what is going on the defensive side of the ball, getting turnovers is sexy. You get the turnover chain, you get the turnover insert, whatever we copied off of Miami from insert here. And you get to do the team celebration, which I happen to like. I know there are people who don't like you did like the greatest thing that you could possibly accomplish on that side of the football. I think you deserve to be able to flaunt it a little bit. Turnovers are sexy. Sacks are sexy. Getting off the field on 3 and out, well, that's just what you're supposed to do. I have this, I have somewhat changed my tune on this. When, like, I get my dog to go outside when I say, hey, it's time to go potty, my wife will say, well, did you give her a treat? Well, no, I didn't give her a treat. She did her job. That's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to listen to me. Why would I give her a treat? Well, that's what she's supposed to do. And I think we look at defense somewhat in the same vein. I'm like, well, why in the hell would I pat Tennessee's defense on the back when they get off the field 90% of the time without giving up a point? That's what you were supposed to do. And yet it's really difficult to not give up points 90% of the time in college football. I'm on the record as saying if your offense is bad in college football in 2024, it's a choice. It is a conscious decision because there are so many different avenues to be great. The recruiting is so good. The players are so much more advanced, athletic. If you are not scoring a lot of points, it is by choice. But if you are stopping teams from scoring a lot of points, that's impressive because the rules favor the offense. College football has innovated so drastically on the offensive side of the ball. It's the complete opposite of college basketball. College basketball is like, set a high ball screen and let our athletic freak get to the hoop, or we're shooting a three. Where college football, has evolved so frantically, frenetically, so diversely over the course of the last 20 or so years that it took defenses a while to catch up. I remember it was humble brag. I was at a press conference for the Orange Bowl, and I think 2013 or 14, and Clemson was playing Ohio State, and Brent Venables had talked about how someday defenses are going to catch up to the no huddle, to chucking the pigskin all over the place. And he wasn't 100% sure of like how or when, but he said, and went on this kind of long answer when I asked him, like, okay, well, how does that happen? How do you even that playing field? And he talked about like, we will eventually scheme ourselves into being able to defend a lot of different things at once. And this is really even like before the advent or the proliferation of the RPO, that he was like, we are eventually going to align ourselves defensively to be able to stop multiple different offenses trying to do multiple different things. And like that happened. And then the RPO happened. And now teams are working on like, all right, how do we stop the RPO? But it's still a work in progress. It's still a really difficult thing to deal with and defend. And yet, the teams who can get off the field without surrendering points look at the stop rate. And if you look at, hey, would you pick these schools to make a college football playoff right now? Would you pick these schools to make conference championship games? For instance, USC is very high in stop rate. You know who's not in a high stop rate? Georgia. You know who's not a high stop rate? Oregon. They've got time to fix that. But you look through the top 25 in stop rate, and there's direct correlation. Iowa State, number 4 in stop rate, undefeated. College game days there this weekend. Number 5 in stop rate. Army's undefeated, 4-0, where Army and Navy are both undefeated for the first time since like Gerald Ford was president. Number 6 in stop rate. The teams who get off the field and get the football back to their offenses, because that might be the biggest key, is not necessarily like, hey, you know what? We're bend but don't break. No. The name of the game is putting points on the scoreboard, and the teams who cannot surrender points on the scoreboard and get the football back for their offenses without giving up anything, you see the stop rate. Like complementary football is a real in vogue language, in vogue vernacular right now in college football. And I hate it because I don't know like that. Like you see coaches who, all right, we're going to throw the ball 3 consecutive times out of 5 wide. And if we're not successful, we took about 41, not even 40, you took 23 seconds off the clock, put your defense back out on the field. But you know what? We're really trying to play complementary football. Well, I don't think you know what that means. Because what it sounds like you think it means is like, I need a defense to get me back football. But sometimes it's like, hey, we need to go on a 9-play, 71-yard drive that takes 4 minutes and 15 seconds off the clock so my defense can get a rest. So I really kind of dislike the term complementary football, because you know what the best football is? Like explosive offensive football. Nobody in America can outscore us is a great brand of inversion of football to play. Complementary football is, I think, the like, well, he's a game manager. It's not necessarily an insult, but it sure doesn't feel real good for your offense to be like, you know what? Our offense plays complementary football. Essentially means I'm not real worried that we're going to score in 1 play. I'm not real worried that we're going to punch this in from 3-play, 78-yard drive. Complementary football is the game manager. It's not a compliment. But if somebody calls you a game manager, it's the like, oh, you would love my friend. She's great. Oh my gosh, you would love her. Well, is she hot? She's cute, got a great personality. Well, the answer's no. The answer's no. If you ask, is she hot? And the answer is anything other than, yeah, She ain't. And if you say, like, is your offense explosive? Well, we like to play complementary football. Okay, so no is the answer. So complementary football, sidebar, I think somewhat stinks. But from a defensive standpoint, when you can play complementary football, where your complement is, I'm going to get you the football back so you can go put more points on the board, that's a hell of a brand of complementary football. When it's to the offensive side, complementary football is not a compliment. But these teams do their jobs. And in a time and place in college football where we often don't necessarily highlight the, like, hey, this is like, we highlight the explosive, the exciting, the interesting. Very rarely is it like, look at this left guard. He didn't have to put this D tackle on his ass. He just got to get in the way long enough to let that running back get behind him. Very rarely do we get into those minute details. But those minute details are decide who is great, who is elite, who is upper echelon, national championship caliber teams. And who are the teams that you go, I wonder what went wrong there. I wonder why they didn't get to where I thought they could get to. And sometimes just doing your job, being fundamentally sound, which you can't be fundamentally sound. You can't not be great at stop rate and also be fundamentally sound. And you look at the teams who make up the top 25. You know how many got a losing record? Not a one of them. It's a real telltale sign to figure out who's real good at this and who has maybe gotten by on a fluke or a lucky bounce or whatever the case may be. So I think those teams that are good at stop rate deserve a pat on the back because I don't think they probably get it enough. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, or wherever it is you're doing so. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out. If you're listening on the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. Goes a long way in helping out the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for another episode.